Welcome back to the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. We are in our second week of season 2, here to talk AFC North football with you today. I am Zach.
And I'm Jeffe.
And our third Horseman companion, Brad, is on vacation in beautiful Costa Rica celebrating the big 5-0. So we'd like to wish Brad a happy birthday. Hope he's having a great time out there in the tropics.
Yep, no doubt. Big 5-0. Got to celebrate it in a big way.
Yeah, that's a big birthday right there. Big milestone. He's half a century old. Old man.
Simmons is old.
Should have been out of the game years ago, but he can't go home because he hates his wife. All right, so a little update from us. We've been working on some big stuff here lately that we're really excited to share with you all. We can't really say a whole lot about it now, but man, this season is going to be absolutely insane. We're going to have some giveaways, exclusive content, might even have some big name interviews lined up. As I think the kids would say, but maybe not anymore. Hell, I don't know. I'm getting old too. Shit's going to be popping this season, and we're excited to bring it all to you and have you along with us in this journey.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. The more we do this, the more people we're going to be able to reach and different kind of people we're going to be able to have on the podcast. There's some interviews I think we're going to be able to have this season that I think people are going to really like to hear.
Hell yeah, dude. It's going to be awesome. Definitely a big step from last year. Last year, we were just testing the waters. I think we learned quite a bit, and we're excited to share it with all of you listening. So stay tuned. We got some huge announcements coming for you. So with that said, real quick, help us out. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. We appreciate you. Let's talk some AFC North football. Are you ready, Jeffe?
Let's get into it, man.
All right. Bengals, Browns, Ravens, Steelers. Who do you want to start with?
Well, I think the bottom of the barrel here is the Bengals, so let's start with them.
All right. I will say I do like the direction the Bengals are heading. Their offense is going to be really exciting to watch. The return of Joe Burrow, who was very impressive last year before he got hurt. They have a stellar wide receiver core with Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and now the electric wide receiver out of LSU, Jamar Chase. They also have versatile running back Joe Mixon in the backfield. There's still two major problems with the Cincinnati Bengals, though. Number one, Joe Burrow is going to be running for his life again, which led to his ACL, MCL tear last year. Number two is the defense just isn't that good. They were ranked 22nd overall in points given up per game last season. They did, however, address these two issues in the draft. They took offensive tackle Jackson Carman in the second, Deontay Smith in the fourth, and center Trey Hill in the sixth. Defensively, they drafted 3 defensive ends in the third, fourth, and seventh, as well as a defensive tackle in the fourth. Like I said, I like the direction the Bengals are heading, but they have a very young, inexperienced team. If these young rookies develop and Joe Burrow can stay healthy and on the field, I think they could be a division contender in a few years. But unfortunately, this isn't one of those years. Plus, I'm still not sold on Zach Taylor as the head coach leading the charge. I think they can do better than this for now, but I have them only going 4-13 on the season.
I actually have them also going 4-13 this season. And like you, I think there's a lot of promise here. Zach Taylor is a big part of the reason that I'm a little iffy about them. He's had no success at all as the head coach. Like you said, Joe Burrow looked good last year. He was proving doubters wrong. I wasn't sure how he was going to do. Was he going to be a one-year star in college and then go to the pros and flop? So I wanted to see it. And even with the team he had around him last year, he was able to make good things happen. They just weren't able to win games. Like you said, the defense, not good last year for the Bengals. But I thought they did a pretty good job addressing that defense. Trey Hendrickson is a guy that they paid a lot of money to. He's got a lot to prove. He's been in on a pretty stacked defensive line in New Orleans. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets double teams on a regular basis. Can he beat him? Can he have the same effect for the Bengals that he had in New Orleans and disrupt opposing passers? And going for so many defensive end in the draft is probably a good move for them because they address the secondary throughout free agency. They have Trey Waynes. They brought him in. I think he's a good corner. He can hold his own. And Chidobe Awuzu, he's not a guy that'll get a lot of interceptions. Kind of like a Byron Jones. Like he won't get a lot of interceptions, but he's pretty damn good in coverage. And they also brought in Mike Hilton and Eli Apple, so they have a decent amount of depth. No superstar really in their secondary, but I think their defense is going to be better, and so that's really the only reason I think they might win a couple more games. But like you said, 4-13 is probably a pretty accurate reading on how they'll do this year, and that's with Joe Burrow, assuming he'll be able to stay healthy this year. Like you said, the offensive line is definitely shaky there still. It'll be interesting to see if Burrow can stay healthy for the full 17 games that it's going to be this year. There's some promise on this team, but I think they're going to need a new head coach before they really start to become a winning football team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think that's the direction they'll be heading, especially the next couple of years. Back to back, pretty bad losing seasons will not sit well for Zach Taylor. So I do think they will make a coaching change, if not this year, next year perhaps. So I do see that in the future, but I also think the future looks good for the Bengals. They have a very good, talented young team that they can build around if Joe Burrow can stay healthy. So, all right, let's move on. Who you want to talk about next? Who do you think will finish third in the division?
So probably no surprise to people who listened to us last year. I have the Steelers finishing third in the division and missing the playoffs.
Well, I happen to agree with you there. I don't know about missing the playoffs. I'll get to that in a moment. I think last season's hot start for the Steelers was an absolute fluke. Do I think they're a good football team? Yes. But at one point, everybody was ready to crown the Pittsburgh Steelers as Super Bowl champs. They had a very favorable schedule, especially during the first half of the season. But towards the end, they were beginning to get exposed pretty badly due to their horrible, horrible run game. This offseason, the Steelers lost three, count them, 1, 2, 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen. Center Marquise Pouncey to retirement. They released guard David DeCastro because of his injuries, and tackle Alejandro Villanueva signed with the rival Baltimore Ravens. So instead of drafting a stud offensive tackle, they went the route of using their first-round pick on highly touted Alabama running back Najee Harris. Okay, I get it. He's a good running back. He should be able to produce, but for how many years? You could have used that pick on a stud offensive tackle, solidified that offensive line for the next 10 years. But hey, that's what they decided to do. Okay, we'll run with it. They found their presumed starting center in the third in Kendrick Green out of Illinois and used one of their fourth rounders on offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr. from Texas A&M. The Steelers are hoping that a younger, healthier offensive line will open up running lanes for Najee Harris, which in turn will allow Big Ben, who may be in his final year, to make some plays to his talented wide receiver core. But that will only pay off if he has ample time to throw the ball. So it'll be interesting to see just how well this new look offense will perform this season. Ultimately, because of their stellar defense and my pick for the league defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, I have the Steelers finishing 9-8 overall, 2-4 in the division, and just barely sliding into the playoffs as a number 7 seed.
Oh, okay. Getting a little 9-8 win team getting into the playoffs.
Only because of the defense.
Yeah, and I can understand that. That's really the only reason I have them doing so well. Again, because of the offensive line, especially after the release of David DeCastro. That one kind of came out of nowhere, really. They signed somebody to fill his spot pretty quickly, but in my mind, that it's a downgrade. Switching to Trey Turner there. Big Ben has all the receivers he could ask for, right? Juju, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington are valuable in fantasy leagues, from week to week. And he has Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron is, king of drops and was one of the leading factors as to why the Steelers were like the second most or had the second most drops last season, I think. So, they're going to have to take better care of the ball. Big Ben, you got to think he's going to be letting it fly. And if he struggles at all, from what I've seen, they've been liking Dwayne Haskins in camp. And there's a strong possibility that at some point this season, if Big Ben and this offense is struggling to get going, then Dwayne Haskins could make an appearance, probably a long shot chance. Like you said, this defense should be able to carry them. They lost a couple pieces, but for the most part, I mean, they still have a really good amount of talent on that defense. Mike Tomlin, ever since he's been there, that defense, it doesn't matter who they bring in, they're just always a problem. So, like you said, a winning season is probable. I mean, we're talking about Mike Tomlin. They're probably going to have a winning season, 9-8, 10-7. I have them at 10-7. You have them at 9-8. That's probably a pretty realistic prediction, I feel like, for them. I'd be surprised if they won more games. It would take a couple of injuries for them to lose more than 8 games this season, I think. They, like you said, they might slip into the playoffs as a 9-8 team. I have them going 10-7 and missing the playoffs. So,
pretty competitive AFC league right there.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I don't really have much to add. We pretty much hit the nail on the head with the Steelers. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out. But yeah, we're both right there in alignment. About an average season for them. So we'll see what happens. The big question here is, who do you have winning the division?
So my division winner is the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, I would have put down money saying you were going to pick the Browns.
Yeah, they're really close. I will say it's really close. I think both teams are really good, but I think the Ravens got the pieces they needed this offseason to really, really be dangerous.
Yeah, so I'm opposite. I got the Browns winning it. So which team you want to talk about next?
Hey, let's get into the Browns. Let's talk about the Brownies.
Okay, I'll make my case here. All right, so I'm excited to watch this Cleveland Browns squad this year. You have the swag of Baker Mayfield, the killer running back tandem of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the always deadly Odell Beckham Jr. when he's not hurt, and the 6-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Jarvis Landry on the offensive side. Last year, the Browns proved that they were for real, but this year I think they're on an absolute mission. The big one here is look for Myles Garrett to have a monstrous year. The Browns were able to sign Jadeveon Clowney to go opposite Garrett on the defensive line. They picked up 2 linebackers, including Jeremiah, and I'm going to try to pronounce this, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame in the 2nd round of the NFL draft, who should be a day 1 starter. And they stole the show by snagging Greg Newsome, the cornerback from Northwestern, with a 26 overall pick in the 1st round. This defense got better. They got more depth, all of which are going to free up Myles Garrett for a huge year. Couple that with a loaded offense that has a determination, the excitement, the experience, and the swag. I have the Browns winning their first ever AFC North title and first divisional championship since 1989 with a 12-5 record, 5-1 in the division, and securing a home playoff game as a number 4 seed in the AFC playoffs. Boom.
How about that? First division title in 32 years. How wild is that?
I know. I'm hopping on that bandwagon.
Yeah, and look, I hope it happens. I've been pulling for the Browns for a long time, even when I wasn't a Baker Mayfield fan. But Baker has shown that, well, I think this offense, Kevin Stefanski's offense, suits Baker really, really well. It's more of a run-heavy thing. They have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They can lean on the running backs, which they did last year to a heavy capacity. And their offensive line is great. They can continue to lean on the run game because they have a bunch of dudes up front that are just people movers. And then you have, like you said, you have the weapons there, and Odell Beckham Jr. coming back. We'll see what he gets into, but he's been putting out some workout videos. He looks like he's all the way back already. Jarvis Landry, obviously, always steady hands. You can depend on him, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with the tight ends. Running teams generally use 2 tight ends. I'd like to see Harrison Bryant get more involved. I think he's more athletic than Austin Hooper. He's not quite as big, but I think getting both of them involved is going to be big for the Browns. Kevin Stefanski, I'm sure he has plans for that. I mean, they have all the talent that you could ask for. I think one thing I wanted to talk about with the Browns is that they got Anthony Walker, middle linebacker, and I think that's a big addition. He played a big part with the Colts. He wasn't talked about a lot because they had Darius Leonard, and Darius Leonard gets his lot of shine, and rightfully so. But Anthony Walker is a huge pickup. He's going to be a big veteran presence on that defense. And like you said, Myles Garrett is my defensive player of the year. My preseason defensive player of the year prediction. Like you said, because of the other pieces they brought in around him, Jadeveon Clowney is there, so you're going to have to make sure you're watching him. I think having Malik Jackson in the middle of that defensive line is gonna make it to where those guys get more one-on-ones at a more rapid rate. So I think Myles Garrett should have a huge year, maybe even a 20 sack kind of year. I mean, he's a freak of nature.
Yes.
And he dominates on the football field. As long as he's out there, I think he has all the capabilities to be that guy. I have them going 14-3 and finishing second
Ooh.
in the division.
Ooh.
Yeah,
14-3 as a wild card.
14-3.
My God.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I see you there. All right, so let's shift it over to the team who you say is going to be better than 14-3. Let's head over to the Baltimore Ravens. They had a pretty eventful offseason. They lost quite a few players, including Yannick Ngakoue and Matt Judon in the free agency, while also trading Orlando Brown Jr. to the Kansas City Chiefs. To balance those losses, they were able to sign Pro Bowl tackle from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Alejandro Villanueva, as well as guard Kevin Zeitler. I hope I said that right.
Mm-hmm.
From the Giants and free agency. They also locked down a productive number 2, number 3 wide receiver in Sammy Watkins. He's getting up there in age, but he's still productive. He signed from the Kansas City Chiefs. Or did he get traded? He got traded, didn't he? Was that in the trade?
No, it was free agency.
Okay. That's what I thought originally. But then for a second, I was like, wait a second. But they failed to snag a number 1 receiver after courting Indianapolis Colts, T.Y. Hilton, and the Steelers' Juju Smith-Schuster. Through the draft, though, the Ravens shine. They spent one of their first rounders on a very promising young wide receiver in Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota, who I think is going to become a star in this league. They solidified an already outstanding defense by selecting linebacker, I hope I pronounce this one right as well, Adafe Owe from Penn State with the 31st overall pick. Then they went on to grab 2 cornerbacks, a defensive end, as well as a guard, receiver, and a fullback on the offensive side. Do I think the Ravens have improved over last year's team? Not necessarily, but I don't think they've gotten any worse, really. They're still going to have a very good football team as long as Lamar Jackson can continue to perform at a high level. I think it will be the Cleveland Browns and the Ravens fighting it out for the divisional crown at the end of the season. Ultimately, though, I have the Ravens taking the number 5 seed in the AFC playoffs with an 11-6 record. And I will note, I do believe they are better than 11-6, but with the Browns and the Steelers in the same division, losses from those teams will be a little higher than expected due to a little bit of cannibalization.
Yeah, I feel like when we do these, even when I'm sitting here and I'm on the little program and putting in, who's going to win what games throughout the season, I always get a lot of teams that have really good records and a lot of teams that have really bad records and not a whole lot in the middle. So, when you hear my records, understand that I'm assuming everybody's just going to stay healthy all year. We don't want anybody to get hurt. So, assuming that the Ravens stay healthy, they're just, I think, getting Sammy Watkins, like you said, they don't have a number 1 receiver, a superstar receiver. Marquise Brown has not come into that role the way people thought he would, being Antonio Brown's cousin. He had a lot to live up to, but we thought he'd be a little more productive than he has been. But Sammy Watkins is going to be a steady presence in that room with a lot of young receivers. Rashad Bateman, another great pickup. It'll be interesting to see. The Ravens had the number 1 rushing offense in 2020, but they had the 32nd ranked, the worst in the league in passing offense. So I think getting a couple extra receivers, like you said, Rashad Bateman should be a very talented guy coming in this lineup. There's potential for them to get real dangerous. They addressed the offensive line issues they needed to. They were able to get Ronnie Stanley signed to a long-term contract. That's good for the future of Lamar Jackson. Like you said, Alejandro Villanueva, great pickup in the division. Kevin Zeitler, another great pickup, one of the best interior linemen in the league for the last 5, 6, 7 years. So the offense is going to be just as deadly as it was when Lamar was MVP. Lamar is going to be putting up MVP video game like numbers again, as long as these guys are able to stay healthy. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a huge breakout year as a star running back in that
I agree.
offense. They paid Gus Edwards, gave him, I think, a 2-year contract, I believe, $3 million a year, and so he's going to have some value. But J.K. Dobbins is really going to have a chance to shine here, and I think he will. And like you said, even on the defense, they addressed the people that left in free agency. They addressed what they needed to. And as you go down, I mean, Derek Wolfe has been a constant in the league for so long. He's getting up there in age, but he's still doing what he needs to, just like Calais Campbell, just like Brandon Williams. Those guys, I mean, that's as good as a defensive front as you could ask for in a 3-4 as a 3-4 defensive coordinator. Those three guys are phenomenal. Their linebacking core, all of them are really, really good. They're all really, really athletic. So I know losing Matt Judon, he's kind of a bigger body, not quite as athletic as the guys that they have now, which I think is actually going to benefit the Ravens. And obviously the secondary here, the secondary is still stacked. Jimmy Smith is listed as the third cornerback on the depth chart, which is ridiculous. Jimmy Smith has been a top 20, top 25 guy in the league since the moment he stepped in the league. And there have been portions of his career where he was a top 10. Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. I mean, and they're stacked from the top of the offense to the bottom of the defense. I mean, they're stacked. They have a little bit of depth here and there. As long as this team is healthy, I have them going 15-2. I have them being the best team in the AFC this year, and Lamar Jackson being very serious candidate for MVP again.
Okay. I can see with this Ravens offense, it's going one or two ways with me. Either Lamar Jackson's going to be an MVP type player, and he's going to shine, and they're just going to absolutely obliterate everybody like they did 2 years ago, or he's just going to struggle, and it's not going to be as easy like it was last year. To me, it's one of two ways. I'm hoping for the former rather than the latter. Like you kind of touched on with the receivers, they're not the best receiver core, but with Lamar Jackson's skill set, if he can just get them the ball, scramble, let them get open, this offense could be potent.
Yeah, and we didn't really mention Mark Andrews. He has a huge impact on this offense. As, he's a big piece. As long as he's healthy, they're a running football team. They're going to be running, a lot of one tight end or two tight end sets. So you can expect to see Mark Andrews have another big season this year. I think even with the addition, which I think, having 3 wide receivers you can rely on, when you need them in a pinch, I think is better for a team that has a lot of 2 tight end sets. They're using the 2 tight end sets, so you can just use a lot of 2 wide receiver 2 tight end sets. So you have, you maintain depth that way. If you don't have a lot of depth at the receiver, it's nice to have the tight ends that can produce, so that you don't, in case one of those guys gets hurt, you can still have valuable pieces on the field at all times.
Yeah, true that. Mark Andrews is going to be huge. So if you're in one of my fantasy leagues, don't pick him up. He's not going to do very good. All right, so that's all we got for you guys today. We appreciate you sticking it out with us as we run down the AFC North. We'd love for you to hop into the discussion, so head on over to our Facebook or Twitter page at Horsemen Sports, comment on our AFC North post, which should be up by this time, and let's talk some football. NFL Pick'em League registrations are coming your way here in a month or so. Real easy. All you got to do is just run through the games, click on who you think is going to win the matchup for the week, and compete with us three directly, Brad included. He's on vacation. If you can beat us out and take the crown, we'll have a pretty damn good prize to hand out at the end of the season. Maybe a jersey, pair of tickets to a game, autographed memorabilia, something like that. Who knows? Good luck with that. I'm the defending champ. I don't plan on letting my crown go this season, but you can sure try. So stick around. We'll get you the registration out here shortly. Fantasy football players, Jeffe and I have some big stuff for you guys this season. You won't want to miss out on this. We can't talk about it just yet, but we're working on something huge. Oh, and one more thing. We want you to get on the pod and talk football with us. I love talking to Jeffe and Brad about football, and I think Jeffe will agree with me here, we absolutely love to get other people involved too. This podcast is about you guys. So if you want to get on the show, let us know. Hit us up directly if you have our contact information, or send us a DM on our Facebook page at Horsemen Sports. Jeffe, you got anything else you want to throw out here?
Just if you're watching or listening, just drop a comment and let us know who you think is going to win the division. And then let's talk about it. No matter where you're listening to this at, let's talk about it. We want to engage more with you guys. We want our community to feel like, we're a part of you and you're a part of us. We're all in this together, and we're going to keep growing together. So comment down below. Let us know what you think about this division.
I can't argue with that. So with that said, we're out until next week, when we'll be continuing our division debate series with the worst division in the history of the NFL, the NFC East. And no, Cowboys fans, this is not your year either. We're out.